I loved the original Horizon Zero Dawn. An open world game that blended fantasy tribes with a dark sci-fi narrative, the game has one of the more interesting world concepts that I've seen in any game. If you're somehow unaware of it, you play as Aloy, an outcast from her tribe in a world containing machines far too advanced than the tribal clans would suggest. The world is clearly post-apocalyptic, set somewhere in a far-flung future where humankind has done something terrible and reset us back to a tribal mentality while robots roam the land. The narrative was all about Aloy discovering the mystery surrounding her birth and uncovering exactly what happened to Earth that had a lot to say about the way we treat our planet. Also, robot dinosaurs are cool, so it had that going for it too. The sequel, Horizon Forbidden West, released last week and I've been playing through it for the past week or so, and while I'm only a fraction of the way through, I wanted to share my thoughts on the game within those first few hours as someone who loved the original and has been eagerly awaiting for this for a while now. Minor spoilers may be present, but it's all stuff from the first 12 to 15 hours of the game, so nothing to worry about, and I've tried to avoid discussing main quest plot points wherever possible. Horizon Forbidden West doesn't do much that the original game didn't already do. It's not a sequel that's making huge leaps and bounds forwards and adding in a bunch of new innovations. But what it does do is take everything the first game did well and builds on it in a number of meaningful ways. We have to start with the faces. The first game, while generally excellent looking, had some ropey facial animation at the best of times, and it was a common criticism. I know faces are hard to animate well, so I was never going to heavily criticise the game for it, but the sequel shows that the team at Guerrilla were determined to get it right this time. Genuinely, this is night and day. The faces in Zero Dawn were serviceable in that stiff, janky RPG way, but in Forbidden West these faces really come to life. Eye movements, subtle expression shifts, better lip syncing, it all does a great job of making the inhabitants of this world feel more real. And yes, Weird Nerds Online, this does include Aloy, whose face is much more detailed and much more expressive this time around. But this also extends to much of the rest of the returning cast too, with characters like Petra, Val and Erend all getting a glow up alongside our protagonist. The writing also feels much more improved. While I loved the writing of the first game, the writing of the second has hooked me in more than I expected. The world building continues to be excellent, with the tribes of the New World presenting a tangled web of politics and intrigue. The settlement of Chainscrape, a forge town populated by the Osseram tribe, is full of stories about work disputes, craft projects, illegal mining operations, and a refugee camp left over from the war that ended the first game, and the sheer level of detail in all of this is astounding. And it's all interesting too, which is the important part. I want to do side quests because it gives me more stories to enjoy. And to have so many human stories within this complex world of apocalyptic terror and complex tribal politics helps me get immersed much more than if you threw a bunch of lore at me up front. It's also genuinely funny at times. From the presence of a snooty Sun Priest leading a delegation, to Aloy's persistent social awkwardness, there's a streak of humour running through this that feels much stronger than the first game. And once again, this helps me get invested because the best way to grab my attention most of the time is to make me laugh before you smack me with the harder topics. I'm just saying, if I make a chapter select episode on these two games before the end of the year to celebrate just how good all this is, don't be surprised. I'm not promising anything, but just don't be surprised. But what of gameplay? Good news, it's also excellent. It's more of what made the first game great, with combat feeling a little bit more fluid this time around. I found myself struggling with the challenge of it at times, but that's because there's so much going on that it can sometimes feel overwhelming. But it never feels overly complex, there's just so much customization open to you so early in the game that it can take a while to get used to. But this is a good thing, since the world practically encourages you to experiment with everything it has to offer. It just takes some getting used to. The game is also full of little quality of life improvements that make the experience just that little bit more enjoyable. Being able to scan machines and get all the details about their weak spots instead of needing to scan each individual part. A stash feature that means you can hoover up everything you find and never have to worry about running out of inventory space. A HUD that shows up only when you want it to so that you can enjoy the world more. And a weapon wheel with 2 additional slots to make weapon switching less frustrating. And that's before we get into the wide array of accessibility options, most of which I haven't touched, but it's always good to see these present for those who need to use them. One complaint I will make, however, is that I was promised gyro aiming, and I struggle to find it in the vast array of options, because after using it in games like Splatoon, I want to use it in more console games. Also, there are two really small things that got me way more excited than they probably should have. The first of these was the use of the DualSense controller's haptic feedback, specifically for the little bristly effect it has when you walk through tall grass. No lie, I'm about 15 hours in and I still go ooh every time I feel that bristling. It is used in other ways, but there's something especially pleasing about that grass effect for me personally. The second thing is that there are robot ferrets now. They don't seem to allow you to ride them though, which is the biggest missed opportunity for me, a guy who has the word ferret in his username. If I do have some complaints about the game, they are minor. New climbing abilities are a little bit wonky and can lead to some awkward situations, and I've definitely got weirdly stuck on scenery while traversing at times and I just don't know why. There's also been some occasional pop-in, although not frequently enough to be a significant issue. There is also occasionally a feeling of being punished for exploration early on, as more than once I've stumbled into an area that looks intriguing and being told to turn back before I can do anything there, which is a little frustrating, but I don't entirely hate these Metroidvania elements either. Overall, I am having a blast with Horizon Forbidden West so far. The world is vast, gorgeous, and populated with interesting people and deadly machines. The game feels like it's improved everything about the first game, and I just want to keep playing it all the time. And unless it takes some sudden dive in quality at the 30-hour mark, I can't see that opinion changing drastically anytime soon. Excellent work. I've been Bob the Pet Ferret, and this has been a quick little first impressions review of Horizon Forbidden West, and I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, leave me a comment, leave me a like, why not subscribe if you're new to the channel, all that stuff's good. You can also donate to me on Patreon, where you can get early access to videos and some behind the scenes director's commentary type videos that are exclusive to those who donate. But if you can't, that's fine, and you can watch all my other videos perfectly fine, including these lovely videos that you can see on screen right now, next to the names of my lovely patrons who help support this. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again very soon.